Sorry about that. The land on which we gather is the unceded ancestral territory of the Silks Okanagan peoples and the Splatsin of the Secwepemc Nation. First, all under 2.1, we'll move to adopt the agenda that the September 8, 2025 regular council meeting agenda be adopted as circulated, moved by Councillor Wayner, second by Councillor Valstar. All those in favor? And that will be carried. Next, we will be looking at the adoption of various minutes. 3.1, that the August 6th, 2025 special council meeting be adopted as circulated. Moved by Councillor Todd, second by Councillor Velstar again. Thank you very much. All those in favor? And this too will be carried. 3.2, that the August 11th, 2025 public hearing minutes be adopted as circulated. Councillor Drapula, second. Thank you, Councillor Fowler. All those in favor? And thus too shall be carried. And finally, that the August 11th, 2025 regular council meeting minutes be adopted as circulated. Moved by Councillor Todd, second by Councillor Valstar. All those in favor? And this also shall be carried. Moving right along, we welcome Inspector Neil Kennedy to present the North Okanagan Detachment second quarterly report. Good afternoon, sir.
Good evening. These numbers, which is always helpful and kind of understanding. Just before I start, I want to publicly thank Tori for his time in the acting rural commander role. This will be Tori's last meeting here, assisting me to present. We had a new Staff Sergeant, Ivan Lee, start with us today, who you will meet in due time, and that will be accompanying myself or the OIC Superintendent McLeod at future meetings. So Tori, again, on behalf of the RCMP, and in front of council, mayor and council, thank you for all your assistance. And much to do with Tori's leadership. I'm happy to report just a quick summary. Your numbers for this quarter are phenomenal. I don't know if you had a chance to actually take a look. I use the word phenomenal. We had a little bit of a blip in 2024. We're actually more in line, if not lower, in comparison to 2024, but in line with 22 and 2023. So with that being said, calls for service, you'll see that Armstrong, you're at minus 14%, down from 320 in 2024 to 275. If you want to go to the next slide. Criminal code, so those are your all offenses, both property crime and violent offenses combined. You'll see that your same reporting period, you were at 73 for 2024, down to 65 in the same reporting period, a reduction of 10.9%. And then if we get into the next slide, please. Violent offenses specifically. So here you are par for the last quarter, but down from 2022 and 2023. So you're at a zero change for comparable reporting periods from last year, but obviously down 10% from the 2023 to 2024. And then property crime is our next slide. And as you can see, we are at 32, which we're down from 41 in the same reporting period, which is just about 22% down reduction. So Tori, actually, I've just asked Tori to anecdotally share one piece with you that kind of provides a little bit insight as to why you've seen this trend. So Tori, please.
Yeah, I'll just add, I mean, I think this trend speaks to a small group that gets targeted and can have a big impact on the numbers. When you're talking about, 45 or 41 to 32, that's a difference of, 9 calls. But 9 calls, one person can generate it over a period if they're oriented in crime and targeting that one person, which is what we had out here. So that person, the issue was addressed. And I think that's what you're seeing, a reduction from year over year today. So hopefully we'll continue that trend. I'm sure we will, but I think that speaks to what happened out here this period.
Yeah, thank you, Tori. And by addressed, we meaning we successfully identified the individual, recommended charges that were approved and before the courts. And now this individual has a no-go to your community. So multiple breaches have actually already been forwarded. So a success in our books anyways. Any questions for us?
I just wanted to point out that you won't hear any of us complaining about the percentages this time.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. Again, very blessed to have members who are proactive and doing as much as they can in the community with their what's little unfettered time outside of their reports for calls for service, right? So next slide, I believe we have a traffic enforcement. Oh, that's okay. So I believe it's pretty much par from our last reporting period, if I remember that. There we go. Yeah, sorry, slightly down. So we're at 58, but last year's reporting period, again, that's only 5 contacts. So that's very, very marginal. And again, as Tori's messaged in previous meetings, we do ask our officers, a large part of their time in the community being proactive involves traffic enforcement, visibility, especially now we have the start of school. They've been asked to spend some time around those areas, helping remind the good citizens of our speed limits and school zones and such. So, okay. That's all I have for you. Mental health calls in the area remains the same par 2 as well. And still we have our integrated crisis team that does help out in this area. So they didn't change. They're pretty much at the same level. So.
Thank you. Actually, I had just a couple comments or questions I'd like to ask. One, I guess that crime reduction that we've seen, is what you described targeted enforcement?
The answer to that is a yes and a no. So when individuals are identified either by way of repeated behaviors and we come in contact with them as police officers or through our analytical work, which we have a crime analyst who's attached, she does all the mining information. She's able to actually link files together where we have suspects. That then becomes a more targeted approach where we actually, hey, like officers, this area, this time, you're going to find said individual, and it's everything you can from motor vehicle act. If we can take their wheels away, disrupt their mobility, everything from low threshold motor vehicle act offenses right to criminal code. That would be our uniform proactive approach. And then we do have our crime reduction team that typically spends most of their time in Vernon, but also works out here as well when we have more high level, like more of your prolific offenders, because I know Superintendent McLeod is speaking to you about who gets identified as a prolific offender versus a REVOI, which is a repeat violent offender, which is a provincial program, and there's specific funding for that. That becomes even a higher level of targeted enforcement and it's a multi-agency, multi-partner approach. So to answer your question, it goes 2 ways. It's either identified by the officer as an individual who they've had repeated contact with as a team, so through all the watches, or it's analytically derived at and that we need to focus attention on as driving crime stats up. So it'd be an example would be is an individual who's stealing vehicles in the same jurisdiction all the time, and their fingerprint. I shouldn't isolate to a gender because we have all different types of offenders. But a individual is identified through fingerprint analysis. That becomes a targeted individual who we're going to want to prevent more. Get them off the street because they're stealing vehicles, and then that stat drops. So it's a combination of both. Sorry, it was a long-winded response.
No, thank you. It does, as we hear about targeted approach and targeted enforcement and identifying individuals, I guess this is a great example of how it works and how we actually see crime reduction in our community.
Yeah, absolutely. Bang on.
Anybody else? Sorry, Councilor Bellster.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I've noticed that you guys have made a bit more of a presence on Pleasant Valley Road over by AES School. I've noticed that you guys have been parking there quite a bit more, and I believe that it's doing a service of the area. I don't drive along Wood quite as often as I probably should. I just don't go in that area very often. But I'm just wondering if there's a similar type presence on Wood that you guys are also focusing on. And if not, maybe I could ask that street be looked at a little bit more because people like speed racing there.
Yeah, absolutely. If you just want to send me an email, I'll make sure that the new staff sergeant gets that. That can be one of his first taskings. So thank you. I don't know, Tori, if you have any little information about that area.
I can speak to that. Certainly Wood Avenue has had it. I think it was fairly public There was an accident there involving a pedestrian that happened this year. When I pulled the stats just to double check, I think I provided those to Trevor. There was a fair bit of enforcement already happening there regularly. But even since then, I've been pulling in favors from BC Highway Patrol. I know they had their members there. And then over the course of a week, I think they had about 15 or 20 contacts on Wood Avenue alone. Those aren't generated in those stats because they're not ours, they're BC Highway Patrols, but they certainly had a priority with that area along Pleasant Valley and Wood Avenue after that. And they've continued that in all of the school zones along with our own officers, especially because of the start of the school year. Just one of those things that we're going to be in those areas. So you'll see it for sure. Yeah, you're welcome.
Councillor Fowler.
Oh, thanks for that presentation. Up I don't know, time goes so fast, 3 or 4 years ago, maybe we were invited down to the detachment to have a first-hand look at how crowded you were. You didn't have bunk beds in there, but you were pretty well on top of each other, trying to find workspace. And I see some construction stuff down. This is just a Snoopy question on my behalf, but is there some work going on there that might expand your footprint somehow, or?
I can share with you that, so we're in the municipal building, the city of Vernon provides us. There was a study that was done by an independent as a feasibility study as far as what we would need for space for current and also for future growth. And then also whether or not the building could be repurposed by way of an addition or modification. So that study, I'm not sure if it was publicly presented or anything like that, but I know that's before Mayor and Council in Vernon. You're speaking specifically in regards to, are you speaking, sorry. I take that back. Now I know why there was the look of bewilderment in the eyes. Okay, sorry. I am not familiar with anything in regards to Armstrong, and I'm sorry, I apologize for that ramble.
So the work that you're seeing out there is, there was a minor issue with, at the very edge, some of the gutters leaking and some trusses have some rot. When they pulled it back, there's a little bit in there. So we are getting the entire roof redone. So it was time to reshingle anyway. So the roof is being reshingled, re-guttered, and there is some work on the trusses just at the very ends where there's some water leaking underneath that they're having to repair. So that's where we're sitting right now. I can speak only from my own personal experience with the space issues. It's still crowded. So yeah, no extra space.
You mentioned the BC Highway Patrol stats. Would it be possible to get those next quarter?
Yeah.
Because that would be interesting to see as well, because that's important. As Councilor Fowler mentioned, it'd be great to, or Councilor Bellstar, it'd be great to see. Thank you.
Sure.
Just one other question. Our staff's working really hard to try to mitigate speeding in our communities as well as you are. And we keep asking for information and statistics, and we're getting one side that's really hard to address from our staff. So I guess I would like to ask the question, when you find somebody in contravention of speeding through a school zone or a park zone in the community, is it a lack of judgment? Is it an age thing? Is it not being aware of the speeds and the changes within our community? Because if we, Pleasant Valley Road is kind of silly with school zones and little breaks and then park zones and then further breaks and whatnot. So if you were to identify a common theme for people that were maybe getting tickets or at least making contact with, what are some of the excuses looking like?
Very good question. A question that would be very hard to answer. If I was doing 100% of the traffic stops out there, I'd be comfortable answering that question. It can be a multitude, or it could be multiple reasons. It could be, is the signage properly identified? Is the foliage pulled back up the sign? Is there an age or a gender? It could be just a complete disregard for the speed limit, right? So unless I was doing 100% of the traffic enforcement, I wouldn't be comfortable answering that question. I don't know, Tori, what your take on that is.
I think you're getting a little bit of everything. I think a lot of the people are just, there are people out there who are simply just disregarding the speed limit. And I'm not talking about people doing 150 in a 30 zone, people doing 55 in a 30 zone. 55, when you're just driving, not thinking it's a school zone, might not initially to you come out as a holy cow, I'm speeding through a zone, and then you realize it's 30, you're 25 over, that's a loss, right? It's excessive speed. So I think that does come part of it. People forget some of the areas. That's why with the school zones now, certainly you're seeing a lot of presence out there to remind people that we're back in where kids are walking. Outside of that, I mean, that's the one that I commonly hear from guys when they pull people over and people just don't realize, but I can't speak to all of them, but.
No, I wouldn't imagine you could. Thank you for that. Yeah, I'm just wondering if there's something that we can do as a community to make it easier, more identifiable to people, if we didn't have all sorts of these changes, or if we looked at an overall speed reduction for the communities as other communities are doing, and how that might work in our community. I think there's a lot of work to be done for pedestrian safety out there. And anything you can bring to our attention would be a great asset in our planning moving forward.
Yeah, if you have any specific locations that you'd like us to attend and have a review, looking again, like I mentioned, the location of the signage, how visible it is from the different driving angles. Also too, coming from a larger municipality previously, we would employ black cat strategy, black cat boxes. So those provide a lot of good data as far as times a day, volume of traffic, speed and location, like for each location. So that is something that other other larger municipalities and cities have deployed in order to build up their own analytical data. So.
No, he was just saying, I think we're doing that now. So,
We have one.
One.
all right. Any other comments from any of the councilors? Councilor Nietzsche, you're good? All right. Well, once again, thank you, gentlemen, for your time. Thank you for your hard work out there and keeping us safe. I know we're in good hands and we appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
And next up, I think we have Mr. Smith doing his bylaw statistics report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So before you have our quarterly report for April, May, and June, to be honest, there isn't any huge things that are significantly standing out, as you can see. We're pretty status quo. I did take a look earlier today, just before coming in here, to do a comparison to where we were last year, and we're just as the previous presentation, we're actually below where we were last year, which is good to see. We've been able to have some success with a number of unsightly properties that we've had an ongoing history with. So we've been able to tick a number of those off our list, as well as also our bylaw officer is far more experienced now than what he was last year. He's now a year and a half in. So his knowledge base and understanding and experience is really paying off and being able to get those voluntary compliances upfront and dealt with very quickly, opposed to having to go to verbal written warnings and ticketing and that. So we've had some very good successes. In dog control, there have been a couple of bites that we've had to deal with. Unfortunately, there was one that involved a school child, but the individual, the accused, was very cooperative on the matter. We have put some restrictions in place for that dog, but that was sort of the most significant thing that stood out within that quarter period.
Councillor Todd.
Just on the unsightly properties, the good neighbor one, there's 36 of those. Is that like one or two properties, or is that like 36 different properties?
That's there is a combination of repeat offenses with a few of the properties that are in there. Yes, so those are points of contact that we've had to them. Some of them were closed off and we've had to go back again.
So you consider those, will that continue to carry on, those big numbers like that, do you think?
We're hoping they don't.
Right.
Yeah. Generally what we see is through the spring, particularly this year with the amount of precipitation that we've had, people's ability to upkeep their lawns, their weeds, their vegetation, that it's been difficult for some property owners to maintain that level. And neighborhoods are determining what they feel is acceptable. So within some neighborhoods, you may see longer grass than what you see in other neighborhoods, and that depending on the amount of complaints we receive and what the level of expectation is.
Did you want to do your docu-pet? portion?
Yeah, just a quick overview of DocuPet. As you know, we implemented this back in mid-March. So we have seen some good success. The breakdown, what it comes down to is DP is DocuPet and then CH is City Hall. So when you look within the month of March, oh, there we go. You see that DocuPet did sign up. There was a large amount of people that did participate online. We've continued to see that trend. So people are utilizing that vehicle to sign up, which is great. There was a lot of people that did take advantage of the lifetime tags and participate in that opportunity that ran through until June 15th. So.
Any further questions for Mr. Smith? Seeing none, then I need a mover that council receive the 2025 Q2 bylaw statistics and document statistics reports for information. Moved by Councillor Dropoulos, second by Councillor Todd. Seeing there's no questions, all those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Smith. And Mr. Martins, permissive tax exemptions, please.
Thank you, Worship. The permissive tax exemption bylaw that is in existence right now was adopted in 2024, was for 4 tax years. So 2025 was the first of the 4 tax years. So it's time to start looking at 2026 in order to have any changes ratified by council by bylaw before the November 1st deadline. So the annual reporting requirements of all pre-existing permissive tax exemption recipients were received. We have 100% compliance. There were no changes outlined that precluded continued eligibility. The only change that is happening or that needs to happen is that now that the Chamber of Commerce has moved from their previous building into the Oddfellows Hall, the previous building they were in needs to be removed from the bylaw. So that will require a bylaw amendment. What'll happen with that property is it'll automatically revert back to statutory exemption because it is city-owned and unleased, unused at this time. The change in use for the Oddfellows Hall continues to remain eligible, being that there's no change in overall use. The Chamber of Commerce is not doing any new services that would preclude disqualification for permissive tax exemption. So the next step, once council has endorsed the change that I've outlined, is that there will be statutory advertising done, and then a bylaw will come before you next meeting. Also, a requirement is that we make known the estimated municipal taxes that would be exempt as a result of the permissive tax exemptions for the next 3 years. So on the attachment, as you can see, the amounts are shown. One thing I wanted to point out is that the extent of the exemption is also shown. And for the churches, you'll notice that it's less than 100%. And that is because there is an automatic statutory exemption for the main church building and the exact envelope of land that it sits on. Anything beyond that, council has discretion whether they want to exempt it through a permissive tax exemption bylaw. So the percentages that you're seeing there are the surrounding land and any ancillary buildings. So that is what is applicable to this particular bylaw. And so those numbers are strictly for the permissive tax exemption bylaw, not the automatic statutory exemptions. So the amounts are shown there, and they are less than what was previously reported, and that is because nonprofit buildings mostly are in Class 8, which is recreation nonprofit for assessment, for property assessments. And there was a tax rate restructure that happened this year where that tax rate came down. So as a result, the estimated exempted taxes are going down as well because that rate went down. So those amounts are estimates, and what you see there will be essentially what will be in the ad going out within the next couple weeks.
Thank you, Mr. Martins. Is there any questions? Councilor Weiner? No? All right. The motion is that the report titled 2026 Permissive Tax Exemptions from the Chief Financial Officer dated September 8th, 2025 be received for information, and that an amendment to the 2025-2028 Permissive Tax Exemption Bylaw be brought forward for consideration once legislated public notice is issued. Moved by Councillor Wayner, second by Councillor Drapla. Any questions? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? This will be carried unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Martins. And up next, I believe, Ms. Cordell.
Thank you, Your Worship. I figured we start off with a fun item. We have been working away on the Highland Park tot lot. So what you see in front of you is the design that the bid that we received provided. This design falls within budget. We did do a little bit of engagement out at the park and talk to people about what they wanted. They asked for brightly colored, kind of adaptable to all ages, and to continue to have a swing. So I feel like this design fits all those things. We have ordered the equipment. We're anticipating it to arrive in October and are hoping we'll be able to get it installed this year. So I think that's a pretty exciting update, and it's well overdue. It's been a long time since Highland Park had an update, and I think the community in that area will really appreciate it. One other thing that I wanted to have a discussion with council about is that we have been approached by the Armstrong Kin Club with a $40,000 donation to the park. They are requesting that in return for that donation, we change the name of the park to their names in some form, Armstrong Kin Park or just Kin Park. So I guess we have had some conversations about that and providing alternative forms of recognition, such as, having their name permanently on the sign, something bigger than a plaque, but maybe less than changing the park name. It's challenging to recognize some groups in the community and not other groups. And how do you draw that line, and how do you decide who gets recognized and who doesn't? This is probably even more challenging because we do have Lions Park, which was named quite a long time ago, right? So it sets a bit of an expectation in the community that we might be willing to do that. My recommendation for council is that we don't change the name and that we continue to work with them to try and figure out alternative ways to recognize them. But I will leave this kind of for council to consider. So I've got two resolutions today. The first is just that the memorandum titled Highland Park Tot Lot Update dated September 8th, 2025 be received for information. And then the second is that staff be directed to work with the Kin Club to find an acceptable compromise for recognition without changing the park name. And of course, we've got alternatives there for council, providing some suggested different directions at the end.
Thank you, Ms. Cordell. We'll start actually with some discussion, and then we'll move to a motion depending on where our discussion goes, I think. So Councillor Valstar, please.
Thank you very much. $40,000 is a lot of money to donate towards something like that. The Kin Club does a lot of work in our community, and they don't just kind of pop in and out. They're a very consistent group in our community, and I think that consistency goes a long ways towards recognition along with the financial part of it. And I personally don't have a problem with renaming the park, honoring a group that does a lot of work in our community.
Thank you, Councillor Valstar. Councillor Nietzsche.
Thank you, and through the chair. I want to first of all commend staff for finally bringing this park revitalization to fruition. This has been on the books for almost 20 years, and it's nice to see that we're finally getting a new park in that area. I agree with Councillor Valstar. I think that we've already set precedents in the community for naming some of these tot lots or small pocket community parks after the donors, Lions Club being one. I think if you take a look at the Rotary Pavilion that we've built in the park or in front of the arena is another good example. And I think this is just another example of why we should be recognizing the Kinsman's name as part of the significant donation that they've made. A good alternative that I thought of was just call it Kinsman Tot Lot at Highland Park. Something simple like that and put that on the sign. But I would be strongly in favor of recognizing the Kinsman's contribution to this project and for the reason that we've already set precedents for this in the community.
Thank you, Councillor Nietzsche. Councillor Fowler.
Yeah, thanks, Lori. Yeah, I too am very happy to see this finally getting done. And I do agree with my colleagues. I go a little deeper with the naming thing in that this isn't just somebody coming along and donating their funds. This is a result of volunteers. And I know that there's a lot of controversy in town right now about what volunteers do and don't do. And I don't think that most of them do it for recognition. In this case, I think that the Kinsmen have been working long and hard. I was just a kid. They still had those great big Kinsman parties and stuff. And I just feel that it's due time for them. And we're not asking them to, they didn't ask to rename the Memorial Park. They're asking to rename a small neighborhood park. And I think that I actually think it's our duty to do that. I like the idea of it having Highland in there and having Kin in there. Maybe not the Kin Park, but some kind of an alternate. But I'm fully behind having the word kin or kinsman in the name of the park.
Thank you, Councillor Todd.
Yeah, I concur. People will call it whatever they want to call it.
Yeah.
So it's fine if, especially like, as everyone said, the Kinsmen, they've been here and they're not going anywhere and they'll continue to serve the community. And it's the least we can do is honor them a bit somehow. So I don't have a problem with it.
Thank you, Councillor Weiner.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm really glad to see that there'll be a swing there. Those are really important in those playgrounds I've come to recognize over the years. But I also have to agree that I would like to see the Kins Club or the Kinsmen recognized in the name. Like everyone's mentioned, they put a lot of effort in. I've also seen how they maintain the equipment, what they put into the community and how that's been ongoing over the past few years. And I feel confident and comfortable with that. Thanks.
Thank you. And Councillor Drapala.
Yeah, I agree with what everyone said. Maybe in looking at the alternative recommendation with the timeline attached to it, I guess I'm curious as to why that particular number of years, or if there's a way to kind of attach it to the lifespan, the projected lifespan of the equipment with like first option to refresh or something to the Kinsmen.
Through Your Worship to Councillor Drapala, that's kind of the lifespan that we were looking at and why we chose that in case a different group donated the equipment later on. But it's, again, at your discretion. So
Did we do the same with the Lions Park?
I am not aware of what, I have no idea because it was named so long ago, right?
Very good. All right. Well, I think we all agree unanimously on allowing the Kin to carry their name forward. So it's just a matter of coming up with a motion that the memorandum entitled Highland Park Tot Lot Update dated September 8, 2025 be received for information. And then I think we can go down to, and that council direct staff to develop an agreement with the Kin Club to change the name of the park, to work with them, and we'll remove that maximum of 15 years. Is that correct? Is that what we wanted? I have you want to leave 15 years in?
Just because it was the lifespan of the equipment and there'll be time to renew it. Wasn't that the impression I got?
Sure. I think it'd be fair to direct staff to just work with the Kinsmen to come up with something agreeable for both that, like have an idea of our request for the name, right, to include Highland in there somehow. And I wouldn't mind seeing a term if it's agreeable to the Kin, but would also be willing to hear what they have to say about that.
I think it's fair that it is brought to their attention that there is a lifespan on the equipment, and we would love to have them continue to work towards helping the community and our tot lots, et cetera, throughout there. So I'm certainly not opposed to that. But work with them as opposed to dictate to them.
If I could, your worship, maybe we could have it as a 20-year term with an extension or a renewal option so that it could be extended if necessary.
I would be agreeable to that.
Not seeing any no's from around the table, so we'll allow staff to work with the kin and work in some dates and see how that also works with them, because we want to work as community partners and not be dictating to them. So I think we have a fairly good motion. Chantel, you got something there? I think.
Yes, your worship. Did you want me to read it out loud what I hear from council?
Sure, please.
Okay. So a motion that's been moved and seconded that the memorandum titled Highland Park Tot Lot Update dated September 8th, 2025 be received for information, and that council directs staff to work with the kinsman to come up with an agreeable term and name change with an option for extension within the agreement.
Perfect. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And that will be carried unanimously. Thank you very much for your work on that, Lori. And you're still up, Kirkton Avenue.
Thank you, your worship. I'm presenting now two permit applications, one for a development permit in the industrial area and the second for a development variance permit for the same application or the same building. I don't know if this is going to work, but we're going to try. Nope. Thank you. Please click to the next slide. There we go. Okay, so this is an application for a large storage building within the industrial area with a setback variance. The building is proposed to be set near the rear property line, which abuts the rear of other properties in the neighborhood. If council grants these permits, the building will require a further building permit because it needs to obviously meet building code. Currently, the parcel is zoned industrial and if you can switch, is within the industrial area form and character development permit area. Now you can see the design we have for the building. There are some pieces of the form and character development permit area that it meets. Primarily, they primarily address the main building, not so much the accessory building on site. But these ones, so the building is sited to minimize any storage area. So this is a storage area, so it's sited to the back. The property is fully fenced. Storage areas shouldn't face primary roads. This will be at the back again, not facing the primary road. And then building design, colors, and materials for attractive buildings with sense of permanence and no unpainted metal or untreated concrete. So it's a little hard to see the colors here, but they're neutral colors and the metal is painted. So in that way, it meets the development permit area requirements. That part of the property where it's going to be located is in that red circle, which is kind of near the back property line, and the property kind of has an indent where it goes in. Can you do the next slide? So you can see the applicant has applied to vary the rear yard from 1.5 meters to 0.9144 meters, and that interior side yard, which is just that little jutty part, from 3 meters to 9.144 meters. The application was referred out. There were no concerns received about the application. So staff is recommending that council grant these permits. I can read the whole resolution if you want. That council authorizes the issuance of development variance permit 25011 DVP for the property legally described as Lot 3, Section 5, Township 35, Kamloops, formerly Osoyoos Division, Yale District, Plan 27531, except Plan EPP 79236, PID 825-586, located at 2255 Curtin Avenue, for one new proposed storage structure to vary the City of Armstrong zoning bylaw number 1921 as follows. Section 11.1.3N, rear lot setback from 1.5 to 0.9144 meters, and section 11.1.3 P, interior side lot setback from 3 meters to 0.9144 meters. And that council authorize the issuance of development permit 2510 for the same property for the one new proposed storage building as shown in the rendering attached and was shown in the presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Cordell. Moved by Councilor Weiner, seconded by Councilor Drapula. And I will call any question. Councilor Fowler.
Thank you. In the write-up, it's, you say that the application was mailed and delivered to all adjacent property owners and no responses have been received. Is that still no responses? Or did you already say that?
Yes, we still have not received any responses. No, I didn't update on that.
Okay. And one other question I have, just looking at the aesthetics, this is a roof over, I mean, is there just open storage for equipment or underneath there? It's
My understanding is it'll have a bit of a mix of both enclosed storage and open storage. And it'll be kind of tucked way in the back where no one will see it. So even the equipment underneath.
Any other questions? It's just a funny shaped lot there at that back corner, and I sort of had a sidebar discussion asking why they needed the variance to fit it in there, because there appears to be lots of property. However, having said that, I am not opposed, and we really haven't got a good idea of what they plan on doing there. Was the only thing that kind of worries me a little bit. But once again, I'm still not opposed. I'll ask a final time. Is there any questions? Seeing none, then I will call the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. And again, the North Truck Route service options.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is actually just bringing forward the resolutions that were passed at Committee of the Whole for council endorsement. I have attached the report that was considered at Committee of the Whole and just are asking council to endorse the resolutions the committee recommended.
Thank you. So that council directs staff to modify the design of Pleasant Valley Boulevard North to accommodate truck traffic, including consideration of implementing time-based restrictions for large trucks, and that council directs staff to continue investigating and identifying solutions to address barriers to preferred alternative truck routes. Do we have a mover, please? Thank you, Mrs. Fowler. Second, Councilor Drapla, question.
Lori, so with the time restrictions, can you give us an idea of what that means? I mean, I know what it means, but do you have something in mind?
Through Your Worship to Councillor Fowler, no, we haven't begun exploring the direction council gave us to include that. We could have signage up that said, you know, no truck traffic between 8 and 8 or something like that, but we'll have to explore it a little bit further before we bring a recommendation forward.
And just as a follow-up, has there been further discussion with the truckers?
Through Your Worship to Councillor Fowler, not that I'm aware of at this time. We have just brought this forward and haven't been working on it in between meetings.
Councilor Todd.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think it's inevitable that trucks will go up that road. So it's probably best that we make it so that they're not going to destroy what we just put in. So I think it's incumbent on us to do that at the very least. No matter what we say, somebody's going to drive up there. I'd prefer that we could stop that, but that's not going to happen. There we go.
Any further comments? Councilor Fowler?
So, and hopefully this is a temporary change until we can make some turning radius changes for them to use Wood Avenue. Is that the plan?
Through
Is
Your
there a
Worship,
plan?
through Your Worship to Councillor Fowler, these would be permanent changes that council could direct us to reverse later, but they aren't interim changes like putting up temporary bollards or shifting. They'll be integrated right into the design because it's creating those drop curbs, right? Eventually, if we're able to redirect trucks off of PV Boulevard, we would have to, bring forward a plan and a budget and ask for council direction to remove them. But they're not easily removable like a temporary fix would be.
I think we all are in agreement that ideally it is our goal to keep trucks off that section of road and understand that it might take a little time until we can create a path or a route for trucks to use and divert them from there. So we'll be moving forward with this motion if we all vote on it, but that is the intent of the motion going forward. Correct? Councilor Nisi, do you want to weigh in at all? All right then. Any further questions? All those in favor? And that will be carried unanimously. Thank you. And up, Mr. Ackerman, we haven't seen you in a while, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to bring forward an update report for council information to provide an update on the structural assessment on Okanagan Street Bridge. As you recall, this year during Frechette, we experienced some high water levels, which led us to some concern with the stability of the bridge through Frechette. We did engage our engineer to come in and do an evaluation of that bridge structure, and they did recommend a couple of mitigation steps that we could implement to reduce the risk through Frechette. As you recall, we installed some steel road plates to help with the bridge abutments. We closed Okanagan Street to local traffic only, basically supporting Colonial Farms during that period, and had a recommendation to do a further structural assessment to the bridge once water levels dropped low enough to be able to do a sound investigation. Engineering staff were back out in July to conduct that work, and the assessment of the bridge did show that it did do actually quite well through the course of Frechette. The damage was minimal, and but they did complete a thorough assessment of the bridge and just reconfirmed some of the observations that were done in the WAT report from back in 2020, showing that the bridge is at its end of lifespan and requires replacement as soon as possible. So McElhaney has kind of reconfirmed those recommendations and provided us with some options moving forward for consideration on replacement. Kind of a range of 3 options for that replacement. One of those options being a similar box culvert style bridge, which is currently in place, updating that and correcting some of the deficiencies. A corrugated half span arch bridge is another option, and then the concrete girder bridge is the third option that McElhaney has put forward as being viable for that location. So staff will continue to do some background work on the viable options for that, and staff have the following recommendations for council. That the September 8th, 2025 memorandum titled Okanagan Street Bridge Structural Assessment from Manager of Operations be received for information, and that staff include the Okanagan Street Bridge Replacement Detailed Design for consideration in the 2026 budget.
Mr. Ackerman, moved by Councillor Todd, second by Councillor Drapula. Questions, Councillor Weiner?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just what it mentions in the report about raising the road. I was curious if that was included in the estimate and what, how much of the road, or if you had more information about that, what that meant.
Yeah. Through Your Worship to Councillor Weiner, that does include some rework of the road on the approaches to the bridge, and that does go back a fair bit. We're probably in that anywhere from 50 to 100 meters back, just in order to make the appropriate grades to do that. So that does add significantly to the cost, and that's why you see some of those estimates up in the 2.1 to 2.8 million. There is the environmental aspects of that as well, being within the wetland. In 2020, when we did the flood mapping and assessment, that location was identified as a pinch point in the 1 in 200 year flood events, causing that to basically overtop and create a pinch point, backing up water downstream from there. So that is something that we will put that lens on as we look to replace this bridge, that it can handle those bigger events without backing stuff up. Other mitigating factors that we do have in there as well is we do have some utility infrastructure that needs to be relocated as part of that bridge replacement, and either directional drilled down deeper or incorporated into some of the bridge structure to have that that connectivity up to Highland Park and other water districts.
Councillor Todd?
Is there any opportunity to look at this with an eye to the truck route as well because of the street up at the corner there?
Yes, we are looking at it with that lens as well, because it is kind of a key access point for Colonial Farms, and how we can navigate some of the trucks there. Truck traffic headed north from the bridge is not an option just due to the hill going up in some of those corners, but we are looking at how we can get from Wood down to the bridge and change those grades and make it a little bit wider and safer for truck traffic to navigate.
No, I just curious, how much since 2017 has the administrative environment changed what we can do in that area in the last decade? Is it like leaps and bounds, or is it just a slow change process for working in that area?
It's changed a little bit, but it is the nature of the works that we are looking at doing with this bridge is adding significantly to the cost. We've always kind of had a backup plan if we did lose the road there. A short-term solution would be more of a forestry type Bailey bridge, which can be significantly cheaper. But that comes with a few other challenges. They're industrial in nature, but that would be something for consideration as well. That would be kind of the bottom end of the scale up to what we're looking at with some of the more environmentally friendly designs that assist with that habitat flow with Deep Creek.
So we're just not really limited in options. We have a vast range of things we can explore to do a bridge replacement in that area.
That is correct. Yeah, and that's
thank
what we'll do in advance of coming forward to council with budget items, is provide some more options there with more detailed costing.
Thank you. Councillor Drapla.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm glad to see that we're pursuing bridge instead of culvert, and that we're considering those flood levels and all the environmental aspects. I know it'd be cheaper to throw a culvert in and go, but I think this is the right way to do it for sure. Thank you.
And this falls in line with the bridge with Maple Creek, just on the south side of Okanagan, in addition to the culverts that do cross Wood. Those have all been identified as challenges as we have the high stream flow events in the 1 in 200 year. So we will be revisiting those ones as part of the 15-year capital plan on how we can reduce that flood risk and mitigate that.
Any further questions? Seeing none, then I will call the vote. All those in favor? And that will be carried unanimously. Up next, bylaw 6.1, Ms. Cordella again.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this bylaw council has seen already and was the subject of a public hearing at our, I guess not our last meeting, but at the August 11th meeting. I've included in the report a summary of the comments from the public hearing. Certainly concerns raised from the neighborhood that could be mitigated through the development and design of the RV site. Also, we heard from the applicant and how this will help support the financial feasibility of the golf course. However, staff is recommending that due to the proximity to the residential development and the potential for increased levels of bylaw concern, that council deny this application and not move the bylaw forward.
Thank you, Ms. Cordell. So I believe that we did have a couple of options for recommendations, but first I will open it up for questions and a discussion, and then we will find the amendment or the recommendation that works the best based on our decision. So I'll open the floor. Councillor Fowler.
I was a little surprised to read this actually, because I didn't feel that the people that were at the public hearing were had enough concerns that that was going to be a problem. With only 6 spots there and being the parking lot behind that as a buffer between the next houses, the clientele, the age of who would be in there for the most part. Of course, that's not set in stone. Yeah, I was surprised that you're recommending not to, because I would have thought that that it wouldn't be a bad idea to give them a 2-year trial or whatever it was we were talking about to start with. Just my thoughts.
Through your worship to Councillor Fowler, it does back right on the new houses at Westmont.
Isn't there overflowing parking between that?
No,
Isn't there a?
it backs right on they're not there yet. There's gonna be another street behind the existing street, and they'll back onto those houses, or the one house at least.
Councillor Belster.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I agree with Councillor Fowler that I didn't get the same feel from the residents that were speaking at the public hearing. And I've spent a fair amount of time over the last 3 or 4 months living and experiencing a lot of RFEs, heights, and that kind of stuff. And I just don't agree. I don't see it with the same lens that it's going to be just an outright crazy potential party and with bylaw infractions and that kind of stuff. So I don't view it with that same lens, and I am more of the mind to go the route of giving it a chance as opposed to painting it with this brush just yet.
Your worship, if I may, just to be clear too, we don't just consider what people say at the public hearing, right? We're considering all the background information that we have and, our experiences. When you have, and I'm not even saying, I don't think anybody's saying it's going to be a crazy party zone, but because it's in close proximity to a lot of residents in that area, I think we will see an uptick in complaints. That doesn't mean they'll be valid. It just might mean more calls, right? So just to clarify that.
Councillor Todd.
During the public hearing, my only concern was the noise from the generators, and Mr. Place mentioned that the sound of the generators only like the sound of a weed whacker or something similar to that, if I remember. And I thought, well, 6 weed whackers at 3 a.m. still noisy to me. But I was wondering if there was some chance if it could be serviced, if that was an option that we could add to that. Because I'm in favor in general. I agree with my fellow councilors that I got the impression that it wasn't. It's near houses, but they have to sell those houses, and that's on them. To me, you know what I mean? It's the whole thing's their project. So if they want to not sell the house because it's beside an RV thing, that's on them, not on us.
Your worship, if I may, so there was a lot of talk about serviced versus unserviced. And in the context of the bylaw, we were speaking about city services, so sewer, water, not electrical services. So the way the bylaw is written doesn't prohibit adding electrical service. It's just that we want to go through an approval process before connecting to the water or the sewer. That's all.
Councillor Nietzsche.
Yeah, thank you. I'm generally in agreement with what some of the other councilors have mentioned. I think there's that servicing piece for me was the one that was giving me concern. I think that Ms. Cordell's brought, kind of clarified that issue. I think the biggest issue on servicing was on the sewer, and of course, septic disposal direct from a RV unit into our septic systems is not what we want. Does cause problems. I think an RV park with 6 units that provides electrical and water hookups, I think, is reasonable. But I have a question for staff, and Lori, perhaps you can answer for me. There was a mention earlier about a trial period. Is a temporary use permit something that could be used to allow this on a temporary basis and to determine whether it's feasible and we are having any issues?
Through your worship to Councillor Nietzsche, that is a possibility. It would mean a different process than we've been going through. But it certainly is possible to consider a temporary use permit.
Thank you. Just if I could follow up through the chair, I'm just wondering if we could explore that option as another option and what that process involves. I know it might mean deferring this decision for this evening, but I would like to see at least understand how that could possibly work and see if a temporary use permit might be something that we could use on a trial basis to see how it's working, how it's functioning in the community. And if we're getting a whole bunch of bylaw infractions and it's causing a bunch of problems, well, then we can revoke that.
Councillor Fowler.
Yeah, thanks for that too, Councillor Nietzsche. I was gonna ask about a trial period, or however you want to call it, temporary use, I guess is the better word to put it. The other thing is, when we were camping, many of the campgrounds that we were in would have a restriction on when the generators had to go off. So, I don't think it's not 3 in the morning. And we can certainly have a restriction on that. Yeah, sorry. Didn't mean to bang my head.
Councillor Weiner.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just listening, if there was no sewer, there was some talk about bathrooms as well, and particularly not outhouses. So there'd need to be some form of facilities there. In my mind, power and water, to me, power sounded like it was a necessity. I am curious about the restrictive covenant. One, how that plays into things, and two, if there's any history that I may not be aware of, maybe from some other councillors, of why that restrictive covenant came into place.
Through your worship, trying to backtrack on your first question was around bathrooms, right? So I think the way the bylaws worded is if they allow units without washrooms, then a bathroom will be required. But if all the units have bathrooms, then there isn't a requirement for an additional washroom. Yeah, and because it's short term, they'll be able to empty their tanks, right? And bring it back. It's not meant for long term, like seasonal living or anything. So sorry, the second part, the covenant. So my understanding is the covenant was placed when the land was first pulled out to be made into the golf course. It was on the land when the golf course was used as an RV. The wording in the covenant is pretty specific about the uses that can happen, and RV is not listed on that. So if we do, if council does decide they want to move forward, we will have to bring back the covenant at adoption for that amendment to allow RVs as a use in it. Yeah, I don't have much more history on it than that.
Yeah, hi, sorry, me again. So I've just been, giving it a little bit more thought, and there was, of course, a large RV area where there was permanent RVs, and I don't recall problems. That might have been a little different, but it was people that were living there, well, I guess year round, some of them. This is a little different. This is catering to golfers. And I think that with some restrictions that we've been talking about in place and some temporary opportunities, I'm actually, I didn't talk to anybody about this when I saw this. And sometimes we do kind of discuss what's on the agenda, but I didn't speak to anybody about it. And I was actually kind of pleased to hear that everybody kind of had usually a staff recommendation is not set in stone, but I mean, it's not that we're not respecting the recommendation, but I would really like us to have another look at it, and even if it's deferred, maybe there wouldn't be a lot of camping there this fall anyway. So if it's an opportunity to get some more information and come back to us, I get the impression that council would like to do that.
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna let Mr. Seibel weigh in for a moment, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So certainly, that's the reason why we have the alternative recommendations listed in case council wants to do something else. Just to be really, really clear, the alternate recommendation number 1 is the one that would allow it to proceed. The challenge you have is when you once you grant the zoning, you can't really take it back, which is, as Ms. Cordell alluded to, the process that we're going through. So if there's an appetite from council to wanting to look at this on a more temporary basis to determine if it's feasible, the temporary use permit process is something that we would have to go down in order to preserve that in council's interests, i.e. The temporary use permit process would allow it to happen, but not change the zoning. So if that's based on what I'm hearing is if there's a desire for council to do this on a trial basis, whether it's for a season or 2 seasons, a year or 2, we would absolutely need to basically defer the resolution that's there, and council would need to direct staff to proceed down the top process to get that started, because it is an entirely different exercise. So just to be clear.
Other comments? Sorry, Councillor Drapla.
Thank you. I guess my first preference would be to go through to allow the zoning amendment bylaw change to go through and allow the RV sites. I would also like to see it with power hookup so that there wasn't generators running, if that's possible. If council isn't agreeable to that, I would also be agreeable to a temporary use permit, but my priority or my preference would be just to go ahead and go through with the zoning change.
Your worship,
Cordell?
if we were going to make a requirement for electricity, we would need to amend the bylaw because that's not currently in the bylaw, which is doable. I think council can amend it and then adopt it, but moving forward.
Councillor Todd.
Just so I'm clear, if we do the zoning, it's just for those 6 spots, though. It's not opening the golf course. There's RVs everywhere, correct? Correct, okay. Just on the.
I just want to go out on a little bit different direction. And I think we need some more RV parking in the community. I don't know that it needs to be quite in the location that Mr. Place has got there. We're surrounding RVs by $1 million homes. And I think that can be an issue. In speaking to Councillor Fowler's comment about generators running at 3 a.m, no one respects the speed limits in our community. We're just had that conversation, and I don't know that we can apply that same rules of logic to people that like to RV as well. Catering to golfers is a great idea, and I think it will help the local businesses. But we can't say that's the only people that can camp there or stay there. And how do we enforce how long people are there? And so it doesn't become a long stay thing. That would become out of our ability because it's owned by a private individual or private corporation. So I have a few concerns about sort of where it is. I support the idea, but I'm not convinced that's really the right place in the golf course property for it. And I would like to maybe look at deferring it myself and having some more conversation on this. It is a big decision.
Your worship, if I may just address, the bylaw doesn't specify exactly where it needs to be. It just gives some rules about wherever it is, it needs to have buffering, it needs to be built properly. So the bylaw itself doesn't specify that it has to be in that specific location.
Councilor Bellstar?
Yeah, I figured I would make my support clear. I would be more in line with Councillor Drapla's recommendation of just going ahead with the zoning and doing that. I mean, if everybody's not on board and they want to do a more tiptoe into the water type thing with temporary, I mean, that's option B for me, but option A would be to just go ahead with the rezoning.
I also think that we're at end of season, so I don't see anything that would that we have to make this decision tonight, and I think that we do require some more information and to give it the gravity that it deserves, because once we make this decision, it can't be changed. That's what we have. And I would like to hear some more staff recommendations. Sorry, Mr. Place, that this is a council meeting and we won't be able to entitle you to speak tonight.
Your worship,
Sort
I
of.
guess, I mean, council always has the option to amend the zoning at their discretion at a later time, right? So that you could direct staff to bring back a zoning amendment that removed that as a use. But if there is a RV course built there, that would be considered a grandfathered use. So we wouldn't be able to remove the stalls that were there, but they wouldn't, if they went away, they wouldn't be able to rebuild them.
If Councilor Drappa could just say what he said before, what was that, Stephen, about?
So I think my preference would be to move ahead and allow the 6 RV stalls. That would be my priority, would be with power. I guess I don't know, does our noise bylaw prohibit the use of generators outside of that time anyway? And so if it was agreeable by the applicant, I would prefer that there was power service to those. But if there wasn't, then that's still not a deal breaker for me, because we have the noise bylaw. But I really think that the 6 stalls would be beneficial to the golf course and to our community as even a launch point, as this could be a trial for something bigger, right? And so I think I appreciate that temporary use permit could do that, but if we're going to delay, it also prevents the construction of these sites and stuff for next season. So I would like to see it move forward, with or without power, preferably with power.
Your worship, through to Councillor Draplet, one concern that I would have about mandating the requirement for power is we don't know how much it would cost to bring the power there for 6 sites, right? So it may be cost prohibitive.
Councilor Nietzsche. Councilor
Sorry,
Nietzsche.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I'm still a little bit confused, and I think I'm hoping maybe that Lori can provide us with a little bit more clarity. So granting the zoning tonight does not have specific conditions on the on it, or is that coming at the next phase? Because what I'm hearing is that there's concerns regarding seasonality of use, and ensuring that council may want to have some restrictions on when the use of the RVs can be occupied. Secondly, I think we're hearing lots of our consensus around the table that we want these to be serviced with electrical and not sewer, but definitely electrical and water. So I'm just confused as to whether we have those conditions in place under this bylaw or not.
Your worship, to Councillor, through your worship to Councillor Nietzsche. So the bylaw does include some use conditions. So I've got them here on the screen, maximum of 6 campsites. They won't be connected to water or sanitary without the approval of the city. Each campground will have a minimum area, accommodate only 1 unit, have to be 3 meters from a city road, be no closer than 6 meters to the boundary, have 1 convenient parking spot. There should be a landscape buffer between the campsites and any residential development. If the campsites permit units without bathrooms, there has to be a 1 bathroom for every 3 sites. There should be a garbage disposal bins provided. The surface of the campground has to be maintained in a manner to avoid creating dust, and the campground must be designed to drain and ensure that stormwater is contained.
So thank you. But if I could have a follow-up, Your Worship. So we don't put seasonality conditions on there, and that's a concern for me, or is it, or did I miss it?
Sorry, through your worship to Councillor Nietzsche, that is in the zoning bylaw generally. So nobody can stay in an RV for more than 10 days in a month. And, oh, you're thinking like only in the spring or summer?
Yeah, that's what I was more concerned with, is that would it be better to have it just like you'd have seasonal occupancy on a dwelling for zoning for recreational uses, you can only occupy those between, let's say, April 1st and, October 31st or something to that effect, just a date range in there.
Thank you for that. Councilor Nietzsche, I agree with some of your points there. I still think this needs some work before it's passed. That's where I'm at. And I would like to make a motion that it's deferred until the next council meeting. Staff can come back, present us options there, and we'll make a decision at that time. I'd like to make that motion. Is there a seconder? Councilor Weiner. And then I guess. No, sorry. So I do have a seconder, so this motion will be deferred until the next council meeting. Staff will bring back. Oh, sorry. All those in favor? Councilor Nietzsche?
Yeah.
Myself, that's 3. No. And the motion's defeated. Somebody want to make a motion then? Councilor Belster?
Yeah, the alternative number 1 is the one that'll let it pass with the zoning. I'll make that motion, please, and thank you.
Yeah, I'm not quite in favor of this without a little bit more thought and more information. I'm hesitant to do a temporary use permit because I mean, if I was a business owner, I don't think I'd want to put the money out without some kind of commitment from the city. And I'd like to offer that. And for me to do that, I think I'd want to hear a little bit more information about the covenant, a little bit more background, and think through the location a little more, especially with power. If we're thinking power, you're right, it's going to be closer to the residents and just some of that information. So at this point, I won't be voting in favor.
Councilor Drapala?
All right. Thank you, Worship. Although I would prefer power, I'm okay with this motion as is without the power. I think that the applicant will see the benefit to having more people come and frequent these spots with power there. And so if not, we have the noise bylaw to fall back on, although not perfect, but I'm comfortable with that. So I will be voting in favor of this.
Thank you. And Councilor Todd?
I'm voting in favor as well. And my point about the power is, in this climate, you need to be plugged in July. You can't not have your generator going when it's 40 degrees outside. So I think it needs to have power. But I'm in favor of this.
Councilor Fowler, did you want to chime in? All right, if there is no further questions then, I will call the vote. All those in favor? Councilor Valstar, Councilor Drapala, Councilor Fowler, and Councilor Todd. And those opposed? Councilor Nietzsche, Councilor Weiner, and myself. The motion carries 4-3. Thank you, everybody, for that great debate. And where are we at? Mr. Martin's rates, fees, and charges.
Thank you, Your Worship. The bylaw that's in front of you is a fees and charges bylaw amendment, and it encompasses 3 different fee changes that council has previously endorsed earlier in the year. It's presented before you just as a reminder as to what's changing when you're looking at this bylaw. So essentially, the 3 changes are revisions to existing business license annual renewal fees and fire inspections associated with those, as well as new rates for the electric vehicle charging, and as well as water rates being added to the fees and charges bylaw from October 2025 till September 2026 for residential users, and water rates from January to December 2026 for other users being added, as well as sewer fixed rates also being added and put into the bylaw so that it's ready to go. So we're looking for what we're recommending first 3 readings for that bylaw.
So the City of Armstrong rates, fees, and charges establishment bylaw number 1916/2023 amended bylaw number 1942, 2025 be read a first, second, and third time by title only. Moved by Councillor Todd, seconded by Councillor Wayner. Any discussion? Councillor Fowler.
Thanks, Terry. Just a quick question. I think, we used to have a tree and bench donation program that had $1 attached, and now it's actual cost. So the actual cost would be somebody buying a tree or a bench, and then plus the installation charges from Public Works? Or what, can you tell me what, I guess, make it easy, what's the actual cost mean?
I actually don't know the answer to that question. Sorry.
Okay, well, it's not a biggie. I mean, I'm in favor of this. I just thought maybe you can come back and let us know what that is at some point.
I can. Yeah.
Seeing no further questions, then we will call the vote. All those in favor? And this will be passed. Thank you, everybody. Up next, new business, 7.1. Councillor Valstar, you have an update for us?
Yeah, rail trail stuff. So I'll just give you guys a quick high level overview here. And if you guys have any questions, I'm here to answer them. Technical committee has received another 1-year extension for their grants. The delays currently are because of ALC and disagreements on terms with a number of individuals over land access. The ALC has approved looking at reconsideration of land use. Highway crossing at Stepney is estimated at 5.5 million. There's not funding for it yet, but there's an application out. There's an alternate route for crossing in Grinrod, which is pretty cool. Erosion control has been happening in the Shuswap, the low watermarks. Sycamoose, this is exciting actually. Sycamoose has opened up their side for with access with ferry across the way there, and they've received a lot of positive feedback and a lot of users going across the way and checking it out. So that is something that's super exciting. And yeah, there's just a few more stretches of trail completed at this time on the north end of Mara Lake and along Mara until Rosemond. And then obviously the test section in Anderby, and then our side from Armstrong to Lansdowne.
Councillor Todd, you were first.
Thanks. What does it mean that the ALC has approved looking at a reconsideration of land use?
So from what I understand, they originally declined it, sorry, maybe Councillor Fowler can. Oh, so just they approved it in principle, and now they're looking at it again.
Taking it out of the hands of landowners?
No. Sorry, I'm gonna have to defer to you here, Councillor Fowler.
It's okay. So actually, it was 7 or 8 months ago that we asked for a reconsideration of that decision, and we just heard the first week of August that we've been granted that. That doesn't mean anything, except that they're gonna look at it again, and there's concerns.
No, that's cool.
Yeah. So it just means they're gonna take another look at it and take into consideration some of the things that have been brought forward. There was a few items in there that the technical advisory committee had to work on, and they have done everything that they thought they needed to do in there, but we still don't have the decision. So that's what's kind of holding us up and why we asked for reconsideration.
And so, and is the plan still to be on the north side of the highway going to Stepney?
Yes, currently that is still the plan. There is alternate ideas out there right now, but that's the plan right now.
So thanks for putting this together for us. So yes, the vote was by everybody on the rail trail function that we build a rail trail on our property. And so that has not changed. The only thing that is still up in the air is, well, bad choice of words, is an overpass. And wherever that is, that's not holding us back from wanting to build the trail and spend the grant. But do you mind if I add one more thing? And that's on Wednesday that on the 10th, we have another section opening at Sycamoose, and it's kind of showcasing the ferry system and a little bit of a celebration for opening that part as well. The parts of the rail trail that aren't done are the ones that are being held by the Land Commission with the farmers' concerns. So there's other work being done this winter when low water and whatnot. So we're getting there.
No further questions. Thank you, Councillor Bellstar and Councillor Fowler for the update. That's great. Next, we received a letter from the Armstrong District Garden Club and a response was sent to them. Councillor Nietzsche, you had some questions or concerns, so I'll open the floor to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. And just through the chair to the CAO, just in looking at the correspondence I received from the Garden Club, I think that we put a lot of value on the fact that they're a longstanding organization that put in literally thousands of hours and quite a bit of financial resources into beautifying our community. And I'm just wondering if it might be, good idea for yourself to organize a meeting with the Garden Club representatives to see where some of the issues are and see if we can come to some sort of resolution so that if they are still interested in volunteering and contributing to beautifying our downtown, that they could continue to do that because it certainly is appreciated. And I would hate to see that that volunteerism, thwarted in the community.
Thank you, Worship. Through, to your question, Councillor Nietzsche, certainly one of the things that I've been working on is getting a better understanding of where the various clubs have been involved in the community. So whether that's been the Communities in Bloom, whether it's been the Garden Club, specifically to understand the locations and where some of them are public property, some of them are not, some of them are private. So just trying to get an understanding of where those fit in, and then more specifically how those interplay with the service levels that we've established within our current operations. I've met with Councillor Fowler just to get some background on some of the work that she used to do, obviously under contract once upon a time, and in some of the Communities in Bloom work, as well as what the Garden Club is doing. So the short answer is to Councillor Nietzsche is yes. That process has started to get an understanding of where we can and would like to have that input. To be really clear, the notion of 2026 wasn't going to happen anyways because of the Kerry project in terms of the work that's going to be done. But certainly going beyond that, there will be an opportunity to have those conversations to find out where those groups can participate and where it makes sense in the context of our overall operations.
Councillor Fowler.
Yeah, I'd like to just add a little bit there. It says in the letter that they've been planting the concrete containers for over 20 years. It's longer than that. The downtown revitalization was done in 1989. Those planters were part of that revitalization, and the Garden Club at that time started planting in 1989. So they've been a long time planting those. I think there's been a big drop in communication, and maybe not even just with this particular one, but I think moving forward, I'd love to be able to see the city hall being more interactive with those who are carrying on some of the work that does make our community look good. And I think in the last couple of years, the communication has been very poor, and it's caused some hard feelings with the Garden Club specifically. I think getting together and having I think maybe there's already been a meeting, but if we can have another one and talk about this and try and figure out how best to honor those people in the community that are spending their own money, that are doing their own work, and things that that has come about because they were let go, that they weren't getting done. This isn't one of them, but I think there's a lot of the people that cross with the Garden Club and Communities in Bloom and other organizations. And I really do think communication is the key. And I think we've been really let down on that. And with better communication, I think we can actually start to improve on some of these things and keep those people doing that. The thing with the garden club too, that was a little bit irritating for them this year is that we know everything has gone up. And there's 41 planters and there's at least five petunias in each of those 41 planters. And the costs they skyrocketed to over $800 this year. And that's a lot of money for them to spend. So if, I think a good conversation to be had about the cost of the plants, there's two things, the financial obligation that the garden club has taken on, and also the volunteer obligation that they've taken on that we need to talk about.
Thank you, Councillor Feller. We also had just a quick discussion, myself, the CAO, staff had talked about this prior to me engaging them. We also need to map out in the community where the responsibilities lie in the various gardens, whether they're owned by commercial properties or whether they're city properties, and what's changing. And once we can get a handle on the work that's required and that the piece that we're responsible for, it'll make it easier going forward. So I think they're going to engage looking at that also. Hopefully that will start working towards a solution. And 7.3 committee commissions. Sorry, Councillor Drapla.
Thank you, Worship. I agree 100% with Councillor Fowler on the communication piece. I think that's a big piece of it. I think the other part added on to that too is just the idea more of like just distributed leadership within our community, right? And I think that we're a small community and we have a ton of volunteers that are willing to do a lot to provide us, I guess, aesthetics or services in our community that we wouldn't otherwise be able to afford with the size staff that we have. And so I think just that shift in mindset of viewing them more as partners rather than stakeholders and then communicating with them as such, I think will go a long way. But it's so important for small communities to have that group. And it's like Councillor Fowler said, there's more and more barriers being put up just with society and cost pressures in general, that I think if we're able to reduce those barriers and make it a little bit easier, and I know it takes work for our current staff to be able to facilitate that, but what we get paid back in the community from the work that they're putting in as organizations, whether it's the trails or whether it's Garden Club or Communities in Bloom or the Kin or the Lions, like just coming at all these situations with a yes mentality instead of a oh, but there's this to worry about and this to worry about. Like, I think just saying, yes, how can we help? And let's make this happen kind of as a general theme running through our volunteer organizations. And then the communication of that will go a long way.
Thank you, Councillor Drapla. Anything further comments on that? Then moving ahead to 7.3 committee commission or official event reports. I don't know if anybody had anything they want to discuss in there. I did just want to make a mention that there was a letter that that came out in our council correspondence regarding Mayors for Peace. This was is an organization that tries to rally mayors throughout the world in after the events of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It's a very big organization. I've been receiving emails from them since I started my term. They were going to Mayor Piper before that. And as we started looking into it, we have not subscribed to the service since 2017, I believe is the last time we actually paid our initiation dues. They had requested to come out and do a presentation for our council. And in talking with staff, it was determined that we were not going to entertain that group at this point in time, and correspondence was sent back out to them. And I did have a chat with the lovely lady in Summerland that's doing the organization of this event, and explained to her that personally, being a new mayor, I'm trying to deal with all our local issues and trying to dedicate my time to that, and just unfortunately just didn't have the ability to take on such a huge role at this point in time. And I think it was well received on her part. And then it was once again followed up with correspondence. So I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention.
Okanagan Basin Water Board? Okay. So the Okanagan Basin Water Board wound up their Make Water Work campaign on Friday morning. Armstrong, as everybody here probably knows, we were ahead of the group, but they came on strong on Wednesday night, Thursday, and Friday in there somewhere. And, you know, I don't feel bad. Armstrong did well. We were up there. We've won 5 or 6 times. The whole program is about bringing to attention what the fact that every drop matters. It's about water conservation. It's about leading people to get to their website and see the list they have for drought tolerant plants for our areas and trees and shrubs. And it's about making sure that everybody's having as many people as possible having the conversation. So when the eventual winners, which was Osuyas, came on gangbusters at the end like that, I didn't feel bad that we weren't winning. I felt great that we had 130 people from our community that got on that site and made their pledge, and we'll do it again next year. But Armstrong has done very well. We've maybe led the competition in a bit, but it brought out the demand from the people of Osuyas who actually are in a desert situation, and I go rah rah to them. So congratulations to Osuyas. There's been a kind of a rivalry between our former Mayor Pieper and Mayor Sue Tordoff from Osuyas. And of course, they have the wine bottles down there, and we have the cheese, and it's become a real winey cheesy competition. And there's been a lot of fun and camaraderie, and that with us being both at the opposite ends of the basin it has kind of brought into a lot of fun and frivolity as well. So it was a great thing. We had a great retirement party as well. Anna Warwick Sears has been leading the Okanagan Basin Water Board for 19 years, I believe it is, and she's just recently retired. And the former manager for sterile insect release has now taken over her job. It's Melissa Teche. So I think they'll be in great hands. And it's just a great organization, and they do great work, and very, very proud to be an alternate. So good on the Suyas, and good on us for trying.
Yes, I echo your sentiments there. I think they lulled us into submission because in the final hours, they had 50 people register. I think they had this waiting list just waiting for us. We thought we had it in the bag. Good work on them, and we'll get them next year. Anything else under 7.3? Great. Next, we will move to an in-camera closed session. The council moved to an in-camera pursuant to sections 90, subsection 1C, G, and I of the community charter, C, labor relations and other employee relations, G, litigation or potential litigation affecting the municipality, and I, the receipt of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. Do I have a mover? Councillor Todd, thank you. Seconder? Yes. Councillor Fowler? All those in favor? And that will be carried. And we will reconvene in 5 minutes.